Previously on Tales from Tech Titans.
Resilience is kind of what made me who I am today. Now, when I look back 30 years on, everything I hated about my grad rotations was what are my superpowers now.
I also read a quote on your LinkedIn page.
Oh dear.
Right.
Okay.
And the quote specifically said, as a team,
yes,
we achieved what seemed impossible in the pre-digital era. So there's a couple of things to unpack. Okay. And I did read your LinkedIn profile extensively. The word team appears 14 times on your LinkedIn profile.
Does it?
Obviously, team's important to you.
It is. It's very important to me.
So talk to me about that.
Those that know me know I always know ahead of time when it's time to leave the building. As I reflected that only this morning, I realised that my biggest supporters and my biggest cheerleaders are actually the senior leaders that I had at IG. For me, the transformation part is kind of where my sweet spot is, but it's taken me 20 years to kind of work out what my superpower is.
But let's go back to IG.
Yes.
So you left after 14 years. How did you know it was time? Content warning. Before we start, please note that this episode briefly mentions death, trauma, and mental health issues between minutes 13 and 23. Please prioritise your well-being and skip this section if necessary.
Okay, well, I always know it's time. Don't ask me how I know this. I don't know how I know it. Again, those that know me know I always know ahead of time when it's time to leave the building.
Okay.
And it was a very difficult decision for me to leave IG because I was going to take on another larger role. With a restructure that was coming about, and I was going to take on a bigger kind of executive role, looking after kind of emerging tech and where would it go. And I'd made the decision because Transurban had come to approach me about a role to build the 727 Collins Street headquarters. Yep. And I really liked, again, it comes down to connection with senior leaders and sponsors. And I had some really good sponsors in my time at IG. As I reflected that only this morning, I realised that my biggest supporters and my biggest cheerleaders are actually the senior leaders that I had at IG. And I found a real sense of purpose and connection with the executive team at Transurban. So it kind of was a bittersweet moment. It was difficult to leave the role, but I knew the time was coming about 6 months ago, like 6 months back, before I had decided to talk to Transurban about the role.
And it feels like through your career, you've always kind of been one step ahead of not getting to the point where you're so unhappy that you have to change jobs. Would that be fair?
Yes. Yeah very much so.
And by the way, that's interesting. So I saw the role at Transurban and I kind of read a bit about it, but I didn't connect the dots because I've been to the 727 and that's a beautiful workspace.
Yeah, and again, it was almost like walking back in time, and it was probably what attracted me most, not just with the C-level executives there, but the problem at hand. Yeah. And the problem was that Transurban has a fantastic small but large corporate values, their trajectory in regard to where they're going, but they didn't have a technology team, essentially, a team for the future. Yeah. I got the opportunity to join kind of as a thought leader for Workplace in tech and to build, and do the design kind of work and the fit out of Transurban's future, the blueprint at which they've rolled across Australia and North America now. Yeah. But looking at it again, we had the opportunity, that leadership team that was headed up by Mithran Naika and the leadership team that we had, that was again a point in time where you don't get these opportunities very much in life, in your career, and they really are career-defining moments. So a career-defining moment for the executive leadership team, as well as Mithran and the leadership team that I was surrounded with, as well as my individual workplace team. Again, a bit like you found on my LinkedIn, don't remember saying what I said about, delivering what we thought was impossible, and we made it possible, that impossible's possible. We really did the same at Transurban. It's something very, very, very proud of as a leadership team to have led that journey for them. And again, I knew before the time had come.
It was almost 4 years to the day from what I read.
Oh, was it? Yeah. So I kind of knew that year that I would be leaving at some point. And it was because we had a very busy period of time to do not just define the blueprint in regard to the transformation and the hybrid workforce strategy and the cloud, the digital twins on the toll roads and tunnels. All of these things, as I said, were career defining, and I knew that I'm not a run girl.
Yeah.
And I've learnt, probably last, let's call it 15 years, that I'm very good at doing both, doing the running of the operations and the run state of a team, that old plan, build, run. I now called stabilise, innovate, and modernise and innovate. For me, the transformation part is kind of where my sweet spot is, but it's taken me 20 years to kind of work out what my superpower is.
But you know what, I think a couple of things there. Firstly, I think that's the secret to career happiness, right? Figuring out what you're passionate at, what you're good at, and spending more time doing that. But secondly, I just don't know how big transformation was as a concept 20 odd years ago. IT was still coming out of the kind of, the shadows, so to speak, of being the people that told you to turn your computer off and on again.
That's right. Very true.
And starting to, we didn't have ERPs and CRMs and all this kind of stuff, right? Any of it, but it's become now critical. And it's interesting, the trend I see is companies relabeling, Transurban, they're a technology company that does tolling solutions.
Yes.
I think I'm correct in saying that. But you wouldn't have heard that 20 years ago. We're a tolling solutions company. So it's the conversation for where tech sits is completely lifted up, I think, in the priorities. But you left Transurban and then you went to another new sector, which I also think is really interesting as a trend, by the way, that you kind of continue, you don't stay in a particular sector, you kind of move around, which is awesome. But you went to Optus. And again, I was interested there because it looked like the role was bringing together kind of employee experience, customer experience, and also security.
Yes.
So my first question is, how do those areas complement each other?
Well, they all intersect and come together at some point.
Yeah.
So if you think about security and secure by design, around employee experience, EX, and workplace really is about user experience.
Yeah.
And contact centre or customer experience really is about how you service your customer. And if you think about like a Venn diagram, EX and CX and the wrapper being security, that's kind of how it came about. And again, that was a pivotal role for me because I'd spent my career in tech.
Yeah.
I've given billions of dollars to telcos over the years for services, both Telstra and Optus, when I was in my tech roles. And a sense of curiosity in regard to what can I bring to life for the Optus enterprise customers.
Yeah.
So again, inspirational leaders, both in Chris Mitchell and Theresa Ison, Stu Pritchard and a few others from a sales perspective. The big thing for me was bringing to life the advisory and consult, again, making what was impossible for customers possible in regard to advisory and consult across EX, CX and security.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know how much you can talk about this, given the kind of events that transpired and kind of what happened next and so forth, but there was obviously the enormous data breach 2022 at Optus. You probably can't talk a lot about that, and I'm not going to ask you too much about that side, but I'm just interested from someone being inside that, what was kind of going on for you personally through that time?
For me personally, my worry, and again, my biggest concern was customers. And when I talk about customers and the buyers, putting myself in the shoes of Jen Goeldner, that's now at Optus, when I had spent my entire career on the customer side.
Yeah.
I spent majority of the days calling customers, Optus customers in my network, personal connections of mine, to ask if they were okay. Yeah. It didn't matter that I was an Optus employee because I was willing, and that's just who I am in a critical events. If there was anything that I could do for any of those people in my network to help them, I was willing to do it. So I made quite a lot of calls to people to just say, are you okay?
Yeah.
Anything we can do? And when I talk of that, it wasn't that their services were impacted. It was more of brand protection for Optus, for them, for the customers to know that I cared.
Yeah.
And if there was anything that I could have done with their contracts or their technology solution strategies, etc., while they were going through it with us, then I was there.
Because again, it was an interesting time, because it was one of those moments, and a few businesses have had similar moments, unfortunately as well. But it was a stark reminder of the world that we're moving into, in terms of the data that is available about us on a personal level, where it's stored, the kind of people that access it for malintent, the way they try to then use that to monetize it as well for ill use. But it doesn't really, I think what gets lost in that are the people on the ground that are dealing with that shit show, let's be honest, because it's a stressful time. And I was just interested in kind of what that taught you about yourself and about leadership.
It didn't, there's nothing that I could have, there was nothing for me to learn out of that. Yeah. Because again, if you've walked in my shoes from a demise of an airline and an airline going into administration, that is kind of the pinnacle of the top of the mountain in regard to what do you do in terms of crisis management, incident response. It's devastating for the organisation, but again, bring the human element back into it in regard to the workers that are the frontline workers are often forgotten. Yeah. And it's one thing that's really important to me from a nurturing of human being, is to make sure that the workforce is okay. Yeah, they're protected too.
Yeah, I think so. I did see a couple of months ago you shared, I think, probably one of the most profound and vulnerable posts I've ever seen on LinkedIn. And you spoke about the like incredibly difficult time you've had in the last few years with, I guess, the burnout from Optus and the tragic loss of your brother, amongst other things as well. And I saw that the post had over 500 reactions from people and 180 comments.
Yes, and I looked when I had posted my return to office, I went back and looked at that post, and I had 52,000 impressions.
Yeah, wow.
And for me, it was a very vulnerable time in my life. And the reason why I went back and had a look at it is I caught up with a friend of mine that I haven't seen for, I think we worked out 5.5 years, just with COVID. And when we sat down, like, I was so excited to see him. We just met in a cafe up here up the road. And it was kind of like I was going to leap out of my seat. I was just so excited to see him, to give him a hug, because I hadn't seen him. And we sat down and we were talking. And he said, I loved your post, by the way. And I was like, which one? And it was the I'm back moment. And it's interesting when it was like, will I or won't I? And I thought, I've really got to, because I know there were so many people concerned about me during that time, because I literally switched off. No phone, no laptop, went down to my house at Apollo Bay
Yeah.
because I just needed to get back to basics.
Yeah.
I was seriously unwell with not just the loss of my brother, my own kind of personal health stuff, the back of the burnout, like the story that I'd written on there.
Yeah.
And he said the biggest impact that my post has was the key points on there, and I can't rattle them off, but one of them was the people that you expect to be your supporters kind of aren't.
Yeah.
The ones that you least expect are the ones that become your biggest cheerleaders. And that for me was just a reflection in regard to where I'd been over the last 12 months, but then that pivotal point of 4.5 months of I didn't talk to anybody. I spoke to my husband, my 3 girls, my mum and my immediate family being my brothers, my 2 remaining brothers. That's why I got confused at the start of the podcast how many, where I sit in the pecking order, because my life has had to readjust. So now I have 2 brothers, not 4, and that for me was I needed to tell people about the vulnerable state that you can find yourself in, and it's okay. And I say that wholeheartedly because me of all people, and I think my husband and my family and the close friends around me that knew I wasn't okay, were seriously concerned for my health and wellness, and was I going to come out the other side? Because if there was anyone that was going to go through life resilient with strength, it was me. And I wasn't.
Interesting. Did that surprise you?
It did surprise me. One thing that surprised me more than anything is that I have a, let's call it an 8 to 10 week window that I have no memory.
Wow.
Yeah, no memory at all.
Wow.
And I say that, and I see you looking at me going, wow. It's a really weird situation to find yourself in, because I look at myself and I know I'm resilient, and I'm a strong woman. I come from a very strong grandmother and mother and myself, and I nurture people and I nurture myself. But then to be diagnosed with PTSD and trauma, which I only kind of got in the August when I'd written the post, that the doctor had said, you do realise I was seeing you Monday and Thursdays, and I'm like, really? Okay.
Wow.
And that you were, getting your treatment? No. And it's a realisation that when a screen turns around and you actually see dates on a screen, but there's no recall of those conversations, it's a very powerful and impactful position to be in.
It's interesting, isn't it? I wonder how much that's your brain protecting you.
Well, I've been researching it because, again, I'm curious. So I, just for transparency, is that it's okay to go and seek professional help and psychologists, and I've been able to talk through it openly in regard to kind of what happened. Because I really want to make sure I share the message that it's not just about burnout. It could be, and doesn't need to be work related. It could be relationship. It could be just you as a human being of, successes, failures, riding the waves. Is that it can happen to anybody. I'd never understood the medical condition being PTSD. But when I look back through my calendar, and I do not recall nothing. And it's only been in about the last 2.5, 3 weeks my husband's felt comfortable, as weird as that is, to kind of start to share stuff. And again, just sharing in a vulnerable state is that he said there were days where I would get up, because I was down at Apollo Bay, not in my city house, that he said I would just get up, not converse with anyone, and I would sit on the couch or on a chair, staring into space.
Wow.
Not reading, no phone, no laptop, not anything. And when I asked the doctor about it, he said that is just the brain doing its job. of protecting me and putting me in recovery mode. And how I came out of it, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
Because it's a 10 to 12, a 3-month recovery process.
Yeah.
That one day I just woke up and thought, I feel like going for a walk. And I picked up my phone and saw all these messages and lots of people worried and concerned, and I thought, and then I do think from memory now when I'm looking at it, I'm laughing, is that I think I had a holy shit moment.
Yeah.
I think I looked at the calendar and it was August, and I'm thinking, hang on, this April, May, June, July, I was literally counting it on going, I've lost like 5 months.
Yeah.
Like, I've got to get back into it. What in the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
Which is why, as I've come out the other side of it, healthier than ever, health checks done, tick, family, tick, there's nothing wrong around me. Everything's okay now.
Yeah, wow. Firstly, thank you for sharing now. And your LinkedIn post, when I saw at the time, and I did go back and look at it this week, and I thought, wow, just the courage to make that post, actually, I thought is enormous.
The courage came from my strength and resilience, and me not thinking that I would have 3 months of my life that I do not remember one conversation. And there are individuals that I know have called me during that time. They've sent me messages. I may have responded saying I am not well, or I may have picked up the phone. I've been asking the people now, can you tell me like what we talked about? How was I? How was my voice? How was this? How was that? And they were like, you were just not you.
Wow.
Like, there was just monotone, no conversation, just going through the motions of having a conversation.
Yeah.
But I've got no memory of it.
It's I think specifically with the LinkedIn piece, I don't really know what LinkedIn kind of stands for necessarily as a platform these days, where it fits in the social media kind of sphere, but it's probably the only place where people can interact from a professional perspective. And you see people kind of posting different types of content around different things and so forth, but I think posting something that vulnerable,
I felt I needed to, because it wasn't until I logged on that I hadn't actually been online for 7 months.
Yeah.
So 7 months for me is a very long time. To think that I'd gone from my connectedness and my networking ways, I'm a very social kind of butterfly, where I'm always checking in on people or talking to people, but I had gone 7 months without a post.
Yeah.
I had gone 7 months of kind of talking to a few people, but not a lot. And I did feel a sense of accountability. It's a very strong word. I felt a sense of accountability to tell people that I wasn't okay, that it's okay for them not to be okay, and that I was back, which is why at the bottom of that post, which I haven't read since I posted it, where I do say, like, I've got it and we've got it, and if you don't have it, then reach out. And there's been a few people in my network and people globally that I have never met that I'm now in constant contact with, because they're trying to kind of navigate their personal situations as well.
The parasocial network again, right? As in, it's.
And now I'm back.
I was going to say,
on LinkedIn. Now I'm well and truly back.
Well, aside from LinkedIn, how does it feel to be back personally, back physically, back?
I feel
kicking goals?
Absolutely amazing, and those again that know me will know that that I am probably more energized than ever. If anything, and this is a very technology term, I've literally defragged my brain.
Right, okay, yeah.
So I've defragged my brain because it's switched off.
Yeah.
And as weird as it is, and I know, you know, I've got those months of no memory at all, but I've got clarity, super focused, energized more than ever, and have really clear kind of visions for the future. Not just for kind of me in regard to where I kind of want to be and where I want to take my ideas, but there's a lot of people around me that, again, some inspirational kind of leaders that I've worked with over the years have always paid it forward. And I've been paying it forward for probably 10-ish years now.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people that I still really want to continue paying it forward, both from a community charity perspective, but
nice.
People in their roles that I've worked with for a very long time.
And that's quite a nice segue, because I saw on your LinkedIn there's kind of founder of 3 businesses. There's Workspace, Buildspace, most recently Spacera. I also saw you recently joined the board of Global Women Peace Foundation, which I thought that was really interesting as well.
Yeah.
So what inspired specifically the latter there?
Couple of things. So let's get to the Global Women's Peace Foundation first. Is that, as I said, I've got really clear vision and strategy and clarity in regard to how to pay it forward and where I want to kind of be. The Global Women Peace Foundation has 2 kind of elements. It's got the global peace in regard to women that are in vulnerable situations, and not vulnerable situations from a domestic violence vulnerability. It's more of the financial acumen, education side of it from a global community perspective. We're starting here obviously in Australia. And it's a really exciting time, because when you think about the next generation, so we've got kind of 2 things happening here. I see it because I'm that vintage now. Yeah. So you've got the younger generation that need to be nurtured and educated in regard to the financial elements. And then you've got the other end of the ageism, and what does retirement look like. And it's about really bringing together all of that into one collective.
Yeah.
And as part of the Global Women's Peace Foundation, there's also a spin-off program, which is the Women Empowerment Program.
Yeah.
And that will be a mentor-mentee program that will be launching in the next couple of months. We're hoping to get the kind of branding for it out this side of Christmas.
Yeah.
And then the registrations and expression of interest for this Women Empowerment Program will commence early in 2025.
Yeah, wow.
So it's been keeping me busy.
Yeah.
There's events and a few other things that are coming up as well, but I really feel a sense of purpose, being kind of that woman in tech, pioneering my way back from the early 90s.
Yeah.
And now kind of being that other end of it now. I get a lot. I'm really looking forward to just paying it forward on so many levels.
It's fantastic. I think, you know, we've been focusing on diversity in tech now for so many years, and slowly starting to see improvements and so forth. But you're right. You probably now have a generation of people like yourself that can be true role models, that have got the time.
Yeah, that's right.
To actually empower to motivate the next generation.
Yeah, and to tell working mums and dads, like working parents, that it's okay, because I've also juggled like a family of 3 daughters, and it's not easy, and at times you think you're not going to make it, but guess what? They do grow up.
Yeah. Right? Yes. Yeah.
We all think when you're at that point in time of baby to toddler to primary school to high school, and then even as adults, you're wondering where they are. So it's the one thing I think from paying it forward and having time, with the spare time that I do have outside of kind of my family and what I enjoy, I get a lot of energy and passion and purpose of paying it forward and paying it back to the community.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Cool. We're going to do the lightning round now.
Okay.
So I'm going to put these out. I'm going to get you to pick 3 cards.
Okay.
I don't know how we're doing for time, by the way, because the timer stopped working ages ago. But
we're taking one at a time.
Take one at a time. We're going good. We're good.
Okay. Lightning round. What are you most proud of in your career? Wow. Well, there's a lot.
Yeah.
So if I pick...
what jumps to mind first then?
I think from a personal perspective that I've done a really good job of navigating challenging times. And I talk about that from a woman pioneering a career in tech. And I haven't tapped out at any time throughout that. You know, there's huge successes in regard to transformation programs that I've led. The ones that come to mind is obviously in-source outsourcing.
Yep.
Really love that. Tech, digitisation of the insurance industry and the customer experiences from IAG,
Yep.
And also from Transurban and having the chance to build the blueprint and flagship
Yep.
building. That would be it.
Nice. Okay. Next card. It's called lightning round. We're
let's
punchy
go.
on these.
Okay. Wow. Okay. What's next on your career bucket list? My career bucket list won't involve if I continue with my sponsorship and my cheerleaders around me. I really want to bring to life world domination, disruption, with some new and innovative technologies and service offerings for people globally, which comes back to my three. Actually, there's four startups.
There you go.
Some of them haven't quite been announced, so I've got a lot of irons in the fires.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. One more.
Last one. Yeah, last one.
Okay, you have hired a lot of people in your career. What do you look for when hiring technology talent? That's very easy. Passion and purpose, and people that are authentic in regard to not knowing it all.
Yeah. Yeah,
Full
nice.
stop.
How do you test that?
Easy to test because I've got enough experience to see when people are hungry to learn. I can often read people by their body language. And their energy is something that I can pick up on straight away.
Yeah, great. So life experience of being around people by the sound of it predominantly.
Yeah. Look, the thing for me is I've been known to give people opportunities where I know that they can't do the job.
Yeah.
And I say that wholeheartedly, that they may have been in an engineering role and I'm moving them into an either entry-level leadership role or a role where they haven't got the technology, a skill set, but they've got a willingness to learn the role.
Yeah. Okay. I've got a couple for you.
Okay.
Have you got any career regrets?
Career regrets. Yeah, but I'd rather not talk about those.
Okay, I'm going to reframe the question then. Let's go on the basis that we regret the things that we didn't do.
No, I don't have any regrets of things that I haven't done because I've actually ticked the box of everything.
Working overseas? Would you have liked to have maybe lived and worked overseas?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I've often thought about it. There's been roles that I could have taken globally. I've got a very big sense of family and of purpose. My husband and I have often spoken about early in my career and when the girls were little about taking roles overseas, and I chose not to because I like a nest.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that our family home is always our family home. And if I would have raised the girls overseas, the transition back to our family would not be as deep-rooted as what it is now. Yeah.
I think having spent the last hour and a half getting to know you, I think what shines through really clearly is you've got such a strong sense of who you are. And I think I've really admired that about you. It's you know what you want, you're unashamedly who you are, and that's great. I think it's really refreshing. And just wanted to share that, give you that feedback. Actually, it's been. I love your answers. I think it's it's nice. It's nice to see, which does kind of lead to my next question, which is that we're part of our kind of shaping as we develop is through the feedback that we receive. So what would you say has been the most significant feedback that you've received?
I've received a lot of feedback, and I like to call it positive affirmations. And again, something that I use, and I've been using these words recently to a lot of people now, I'm coming back into contact with people, is there is such a thing as positive criticism.
Yeah.
And people should never take feedback as a negative.
Yeah.
They need to flip it around for it to be positive criticism that they can actually build upon.
Yeah.
Because I think the one thing that I never did, and again I think it comes from being from a family of boys, is that being in a family of boys, I was born to be a survivor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it didn't matter what my body shape was, what I was good at, what I was bad at. Being in a house full of boys kind of makes sure that you do a sense check on who you are, because they will just say stuff to be nasty.
Yeah.
Right. Even as preschoolers or throughout our life, and then when you get into high school and then you're surrounded by females, hormonal females, and testosterone boys, and you've got to again go through it. And I do personally think it's kind of been no different in the workforce. I actually actively throughout my career have always sought feedback.
Yeah.
I want the good, the bad, the ugly, because unless you do that, you're not going to improve who you are.
I completely agree. I also think if you don't do that or you don't model that behaviour, you're not really in a position to give feedback. Is my perspective. As in, you can't kind of give but not take.
Yeah.
In that sense. So I think it's a kind of key element of it too. So I was just reflecting again on you growing up with four brothers and your mum, and what you said right at the start about being a natural organiser. I was thinking you're like 2IC to your mum.
Yes.
That's kind of how I imagine it in your house, by the way.
That's true, actually.
It was going through my head and at the time, and I forgot to say it, but you brought it back up. True. I'm oversharing, but this is the image I had.
Yeah. I think it's important
The Apprentice.
for people, to realise where you come from.
Yeah.
And as I said right at the start, my mum wanted to keep me there in Newcastle, and my dad and my grandmother were the ones that pushed me out of home to go live in Sydney with my family.
Yeah.
And when I reflect on that now, they knew that I was a born organiser. They knew I was destined to, do great things.
Yeah.
But I wasn't going to do it being surrounded in my family unit in a local kind of regional community.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't have got that exposure and that growth in regard to where do you go.
Yeah.
And mind you, my mum, and now I've realised that I was 2IC. My mum has always been in the regional New South Wales, in Newcastle Maitland, but my dad and my grandma had lived Sydney, most capital cities.
Yeah.
And then they went back to the country.
Interesting. I read something recently that was saying the best thing you can do for your career if you're young is move to a big city, because there's more things happening, more opportunity. Rather than being really good in a small average place, go and be kind of average in a big place, because it's still going to be better than where you were here, and it's going to open up more opportunity. Which is, it's interesting, and certainly through meeting titans through the podcast, there's these themes. There's this themes of movement and risk and curiosity, and but what I also love from your story, kind of going back to the regrets that we talked about, the international side, is it's also refreshing to hear that you didn't feel the need to go overseas in order to further your career in Australia. You've been able to achieve the things that you wanted to achieve domestically, and I think sometimes there is a perception that if you don't leave these four shores and kind of broaden your horizons, but you still did, right? You were doing work in North America with Transurban and New Zealand.
Very much so. So my roles have always had global scale, and even in my airline days, I was never home. So
that's right.
I spent more time overseas than what I did here, but I was always going to anchor to having a home.
Yeah, that's right.
And our family home here, and I just travel. I mean, that's just what the kids kind of know.
Yeah.
They've never known anything other than that. And I know, and again, going back to the vulnerable state, I haven't actually asked the kids about how they felt during that time.
Mm-hmm.
I do know that my younger daughter, so she's 15, she was the one that spent probably the most time with me. And the other day I must have had a sigh or a funny breath or something, and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why?" And she's like, "Oh, because she used to do that a lot." And then she just shut down, and I was like, I'm not going to ask her about how she feels.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Yeah, but again, that comes from within, of knowing who I am, and it's been a very important step in my life to make sure that I raise 3 strong, independent, resilient females in my family.
I've got your daughters in my mind's eye, and they're going to kick goals. I've got zero doubt about that whatsoever.
Yeah, well, we have a very open, honest family unity between my husband and I and the 3 girls, and those that know us know that they are strong, independent women.
Yeah.
They're only 16, 20 and 22, but we talk about everything and anything, and if there's something worrying them, then the whole family knows about it.
Yeah. That's great.
And if it's something that they don't want to share with us, then I can always tell, because I can sense it out, that one of the girls has done something or has confided in one of the others about something, and that's kind of just... It's probably the theme of team again, though, Anton.
It is. It's interesting. We've got 2 guys in the office that have both recently become dads, and I say recently in the last 4 or 5 weeks. 1 2 weeks ago, and they've kind of been asking me advice or experience, or what have you seen different now compared to when you became a dad? And my kids are a bit older, but I was talking to them about social media and the boundaries and the difference compared to our childhoods, where you'd be out and about and out for hours and days at a time, and no phones or devices or whatnot. But we were just talking about what my wife and I talk about a lot, which is just really kind of building that sense of, the home's a safe place. You can come and talk to us about stuff. You can interact. There may be consequences eventually for some of the things you do, but don't ever feel you can't pick up the phone and say, I'm in a spot of bother, or I've made a terrible mistake and I need you to come and help. It's helping ground them around good decisions, good morals, knowing what's not safe, trusting your gut. And we talk a lot with the kids about that. And it's a different world now, with most of their interactions are online and Snapchat and God knows what. But the concept's still the same.
I think it's very values driven. No different my home life to my work life is that I am a high integrity, values driven individual, and open, honest transparency and integrity are kind of critical to kind of have as part of where you work, but also from a family perspective, that time does pass, and if you made a mistake, just own it and get on with it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Look, this is kind of my final Jen question, so to speak.
Okay.
If you had some sage advice for the next generation, and you gave me a list earlier, right? So I'm going to see how much of it you can remember. But if you had some sage advice for the next generation,
a lot.
You've got 6 on your list. So I'm going to see if we can get the full house.
So let's see how I can go. So the first one is always embrace your strength. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses. Don't dwell on the weaknesses. Just hone in on embracing the strengths. Another one that's critical, and they're kind of in order, and I won't remember them as I get to the bottom of them. The next one is you've got to take risks early. You've got to put your hand up and just own where you want to go. You've got to be curious. You must always be curious. You've got to find supporters. So, my biggest success, again, I could rattle off 1,001 names of people that have been my supporters, and when you don't have a supporter, that's where you'll come undone. You must have a supporter either in the organisation or out of the organisation to kind of be your voice of reason when you're not sure if you're going the right path or not. And the other one for me is I don't think people think about themselves enough. So one that I know is on there is be you. And have fun. Is that right?
It's double underlined, ticks in capitals, exclamation marks.
There you go. Because for me, I think we get lost in the pressures of society from a work-life balance perspective, or what's going on, personal life, work life, is that you've got to hold on to the sense of purpose. What is your passion? What gets you out of bed in the morning? Where does your energy come from? And only you can do that. So I couldn't tell you, you couldn't tell me, because we're all got completely different DNAs and where we get our energy from. And the one thing that people don't do enough, because we're all too serious, is they don't have enough fun. So you've got to have a good dose of fun in everything that you're doing. And when I think about the big success that's come from the technology kind of landscape, the changing landscape, we don't need to know it all. You've got to make sure you have a little giggle along the way, even if it's a messed up, or there's an outage, or there was whatever. You learn from it.
I read something yesterday, and it was talking about burnout actually, and it said one of the best ways to get out of burnout is to laugh. It's very hard to feel down or flat or exhausted or better.
The laughing clubs did exist once upon a time, I think. I think there were laughing clubs. There were laughing clubs where you could go along and just stand in a circle and laugh at each other. There you go. Yeah, they did exist.
They should bring it back.
I don't know. We should probably look it up.
We should do it. There's a 5th startup right there. Let's do it.
Let's do it tomorrow.
That's done.
Because like Space Era launching, it was like, we're ready. No, we're launching now, because you know what? We're ready. We're born ready. And the last one on that list, and I can't remember what it is, but I'm going to say that it comes from the person that I told you about earlier, Donna Marie, about saying that you don't need to know it all, and paying it forward is about you must always ask for help.
That's it. You've done it. Full house.
Have I?
Bingo. There you go. I'm not going to make the same terrible joke about milk and potatoes being on the list, but actually, I'll tell you one thing before I go to the last question, which, reflecting on all of those, the kind of find your sponsors. Isn't it great, though, as a leader, when you find someone that you want to sponsor, that you see someone,
there is no better feeling. And I could rattle off the names of the people, and if they listen to this podcast, they'll know who they are. Because it becomes a match made in heaven. Because you find them early on in either their careers, or they're midway through, or they might even be at the end of their careers. And when you come together and have an agreement that here's what we're going to do together, it, again, a bit like the delivery of programs or building teams, it's the most rewarding thing that anybody could really do.
Absolutely. It's magic. And I think when you're young in your own career and you're kind of looking for those sponsors, or you're kind of identifying who they are and making those relationships, I think it's you don't realise that they're also taking the same enjoyment that you are from the relationship.
Look, and I just something to note is that I have been in a position before where the sponsor of what myself and the team were doing had left the organisation. And that really does hit home, and it hurts from both a team morale and disengagement perspective.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like changing of the guards, or,
Yeah.
you've got the strategy, you've got the vision, you know where you're going, and then somebody comes in, pulls the handbrake on and says, no, we're stopping that, and this is the direction we're going. So again, it comes down to resilience and people knowing how to be adaptable.
Yeah.
It's kind of a critical point, and it is a secret sauce that everybody needs to learn, is be adaptable, and that positive criticism that I spoke of.
Yeah.
You're winning.
Absolutely. Awesome. Last question.
Yes.
What are you reading? What are you listening to? What's inspiring you?
Look, I listen and read everything. Something that I continue to do, and I don't know why I keep on reading it. It's the 7 Habits of the Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey.
Yeah, okay.
And influence and control is, I don't know why. Like, I have these books in my bookcase, and I just keep on going back to the same ones. The Diary of a CEO, we've already spoken about that.
Have you read the book?
No, I haven't.
The book's exceptional.
Is it?
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, I haven't read it. I just find the more I listen to just a variety of podcasts and reading of, white papers and research side of things, my brain goes wild of all the things that I don't know.
Yeah.
Which is why that I, as I said, defrag the brain. I've got real clarity and focus, and kind of my biggest person that I really watch a lot is Elon Musk now.
Interesting. that is controversial and unexpected.
Well, kind of like I've just got so many ideas of all the gaps in the market.
Yeah.
If I had Elon's money, I'd be dangerous.
He's got that money and he's dangerous. So
I'd be dangerous in a good way. There is so many things, like gaps in markets that I see from a tech perspective.
Look, what does dangerous mean, right? As in, like he's pushed...
No. So mine's nothing like that. Mine is that I know, just with my years of experience with technology and transformation and the curiosity in regard to where we need to be in like 15 years' time, not now.
Yeah.
I've already got ideas on that. So I could quite easily just ideate some real businesses that are disruptive to the way people
go for it.
Operate. I've got a lot on at the moment.
You got a bit on. But you talk about Elon Musk, but I think I'm correct in saying this is a guy that can put a satellite in space for 5% of the cost of NASA, right? So yeah, he may be a bit bonkers and a bit extreme and do some wacky things, but he's pushed the envelope in some incredible ways and changed the planet that we live on.
There is and I haven't got it because I didn't think I was going to go there. Steve Jobs did say, and I can't recall what it is, but I know I'm one of these people. It's here's to the crazy ones.
Yeah, right.
And we'll find it so we can put it with that handwritten note that I gave you. It is about here's to the crazy ones, and the ones that look at you and think you're a bit different.
Yeah.
And, a way to summarise myself is I am probably one of those people.
Yeah.
Is that I don't do things in halves. That things that would take 6 to 12 months, you can do them in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But we will put that on the bottom of the...
We'll add it. Yeah.
We'll add it because everybody should watch that. He did say about here's to the crazy ones, the ones that disrupt and the ones that think outside the square. And now I'm empowering the younger generation, so watch this space for next gen.
Awesome. Look, thank you so much for your time. You've been incredibly generous with your time. You've been incredibly candid, vulnerable. I've really enjoyed just getting to learn more about you as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to my story.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Tales from Tech Titans, and be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcast. If you'd like to get more insights about tech careers, then check out the Ember, that's EMMBR LinkedIn page for the latest updates, articles, and engaging discussions.